Hey, what is going on, everybody? My name is Matt Willie, and today we're back with another video on this camera, the Fuji X-T4. And today I wanted to change pace a little bit and talk about why this camera is not the perfect camera for those of us that are hybrid shooters. Just a little background on me. I'm a hybrid shooter in a professional environment using both photo and video equally, and I have found some flaws with this camera that prevent it from being the perfect hybrid camera. Quick disclaimer, I think the Fujifilm X-T4 is an absolutely incredible camera, an easy recommendation from me, so don't take this the wrong way. And also, this is not a full review of the X-T4, that will be coming in the near future. So before we get started, I just wanted to encourage you guys to like and subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. It helps these videos to keep coming and the information to keep flowing. So keep that in mind, but I'm not going to go too far into that. So let's get on with the video. So the first flaw that I've noticed with this camera is actually kind of a nitpick. It's not that big of a deal. But that is the fact that the base ISO of the Fujifilm X-T4 when filming in video is ISO 640. This can be kind of a problem because when you're filming outside, this makes it extremely difficult to expose properly without stopping down your aperture. And by stopping down, you actually lose all of your depth of field, and this can be remedied by an ND filter, but for a good one, that's an extra $150 to $200 cost, which is something to keep in mind. The next one is actually a big major flaw of the system as a whole, no matter what Fujifilm camera you have, and that is the lack of video focused lenses that perform well in autofocus. So a lot of Fuji's lenses have old autofocus motors and old lens systems that actually make it very difficult for the camera to autofocus in video. So keep this in mind when making your purchasing decision, because both Canon and Sony have much better choices when it comes to autofocusing lenses. And even though the autofocus system on this camera is actually really good, the lenses do impact the performance a considerable amount unless you get one of their brand new lenses. And one I can really recommend that works great is the one I have on it right now, which is the 16 to 80 f4 OIS. So yeah, make sure to do your research on lenses and what works good in video autofocus. For photography, this isn't going to matter as much for those of you that just do photography, but for video, definitely do your research on what lenses are going to perform the best in video for autofocus. So moving on, we're going to talk about the autofocus system itself. Now, don't get me wrong, this autofocus system is blazing fast. The Fujifilm X-T4 has one of the fastest autofocus systems I have ever personally used, but it has some problems as well for video autofocus specifically. For photography, again, it's amazing, but for video, I've noticed a lot of pulsing actions by the autofocus system, especially when you have trees and stuff in the background. Your video will have this small pulsing and you might not even notice it, but once you do, it can be extremely distracting. Now, I've come to find a really good autofocus setting. I'll just kind of put it somewhere on the screen so you guys know this has worked really well for me to kind of counteract the sensitivity and the speed of the autofocus system and make it more usable in video, look more natural. Now, it's not perfect. Canon and Sony are still far ahead of this system, but at least you're in focus, unlike a Panasonic camera. So the final real gripe I have with the Fujifilm X-T4 is the ergonomics. Now, don't get me wrong, this is one of the most amazing looking cameras. If you show up with this camera in your hand, people are going to be looking and going to be impressed, but at the end of the day, that doesn't really matter. The grip is very small. It's not that comfortable to hold in your hand, although it is a big improvement from the Fujifilm X-T3. Also, the joystick is really flimsy. It's a small joystick. I don't really like it. And the D-pad on the back, I would rather replace that with a control dial to give extra control and have 3 control dials for the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO when filming in video. Now, Fujifilm is notorious for their buttons and dials and tactile feels, and for photography, it's actually amazing. I actually really like the ergonomics, but for video, I would love to see some more video-focused control dials and things like that for adjusting settings on the go, as well as a way to quickly switch between filming modes, between frame rates and things like that without having to go into the menus. So that's all I have for today. It was just a really quick video with just a couple gripes I have with the camera to help you guys make a good purchasing decision on whether or not you should pick up this camera. Now, after saying all of this, I absolutely love the Fujifilm X-T4. I'm going to be sticking with it for the near future. Stay tuned for the full review of it, and have a great day. Peace.